Hey, what's up nerds? Mike here. Listen, before you start with the lesson that you're about to watch, I just want you to know that it's actually a small part of a bigger course that I created on NSX-T troubleshooting. So if you like what you see in this course, check the description below for a link where you can buy the full course, and be sure to use the coupon code NERDYNATION, that's NRDY Nation, N-A-T-I-O-N. Use that coupon code and that will give you 70% off the regular price. Don't pay the full price, totally not necessary. That said, I'm gonna let you get to this lesson. I hope you enjoy it and come back for more. Take care and stay nerdy. I don't know what I was doing. I'm just gonna pretend I'm doing something important on my iPad. Welcome back. In this lesson, we're just going to talk about some of the kinds of NSX issues that you may run into, and we'll also talk about some of the ones that we'll be addressing moving forward. So let's get right to it. So the categories of problems that I would say there are with NSX-T, the first one is what I would call component issues. This is going to be things like the NSX-T manager having issues, or the Edge VM having problems, transport nodes having problems. Again, these are your ESX hosts. This could be things on the transport node size. This could be things like host prep is probably one of the most common. So you're trying to prep a host to make it a transport node and you're having issues. It also could be what I would call realization issues, meaning you have defined a virtual network or a firewall rule or something like that in NSX, but it is not actually taking effect on your transport node as well. So I'd say that's kind of another issue that you can run into. Now, I would say another kind of category would be just generic, deployment issues, GUI problems, that sort of thing. So kind of under this category, I would say this would be things like, oh, I can't log into the manager, or there's, a weird bug, or this menu isn't working right, or I set it up, everything seems fine in the GUI, but we're kind of running into this weird issue. Maybe it's related to how we set up NSX, for example. Now, a massive category of problems is overlay issues, and I put 2 stars here just so that you know we're going to be hitting on this really hard throughout this course. So this is ultimately meaning our Geneve traffic, our overlay traffic, is broken somehow. So we're going to go over how to identify that and how to troubleshoot that and ultimately fix it. Now, the challenge with overlay issues is there can be so many underlying issues. It could be a physical network issue, it could be misconfiguration in vSphere, could be misconfiguration in NSX. There's a whole different kind of variety of things that could be going on. So that is kind of tricky, and that's why we're going to spend a lot of time on that. Now, the other one we're also going to spend a lot of time with is routing issues. So ultimately, this is the most common symptom is, I can't talk to anything outside of NSX. And when I say I'm becoming a VM and no longer a human being. The other category that I would add to this is just generic weird stuff that happens that will require VMware support. Now, obviously, this is much less common than anything else here, but it does happen. So there are certain scenarios you're going to run into, and I will tell you throughout the course when that moment is. If you run into this, you need to get a hold of VMware support immediately. I will definitely tell you that throughout the course, because there are certainly some things that you don't want to waste your time troubleshooting, because VMware support is much more skilled and has the tools to actually troubleshoot it much more quickly. And, they might have run into things that you haven't, right? So that said, just to summarize, we're going to go through some basic component issues, how to deal with some of this. Most of this is pretty straightforward. There's not a lot that we can do in the GUI or even the CLI for some of this, but we will address what we can throughout this course. But I would say the bulk of the course is going to be spent right here from overlay down to routing. So we're going to figure out, how do we troubleshoot these overlay issues? How do we recognize them? How do we identify them? How do we know that we're having an overlay issue and not a routing problem? And if it is a routing problem, how do we troubleshoot that? How do we identify it? How do we solve it? And that includes not only the GUI, but also CLI as well. All right, so now that we understand the kinds of problems that we can see within NSX, let's continue moving forward and start learning how to fix some of these types of things.